On this side of the veil no one does, but as I present myself in your world I do so as a balanced masculine and feminine entity. I bring that up today because we wish to speak about sexuality on your planet. What is sexuality? It begins as the pulling apart of the two facets of yourself. You may know a part of the group, as the keeper calls it, is a beautiful, magical lady by the name of Merlia. She is the feminine aspect of Merlin who entered this dimension as a man, and as such he had to separate himself to play the game. Yes, we're always talking about separation. Humans come in pretending to be separate and you are. You're all pretending to be separate from each other, but you also must separate your different sides within yourself. Now you've stepped into the fifth dimension and things are different. As we mentioned last time we came together, you have moved into spiral time. Spiral time and spiral thought are something that humans are simply not used to, yet. Dear ones, you are now starting to see it. That's part of the reason that all these sexual misdeeds are being uncovered. Isn't it interesting that just recently you found a new layer of sexual misconduct by people who, quite honestly, really should know better? Yet, what is that all about? It often shows up in those who pull themselves apart, trying very hard to play the game of pretending with only one part of themselves. Vows of celibacy are a perfect example of this. Of course, the challenge about sexual abuse in all forms is that it is passed down generations. Generational healing. Let us give an example of a man who abuses his young son. Well, that young man will generally grow up and abuse his own children is a similar way. But what if the son decides to change? He may very well grow up and say, "I will not abuse my children." And if he does the work, he accomplishes incredible healing within himself. Yet it does not stop there, for that healing goes forward and backwards in the timeline. He not only heals his children who don't have to experience abuse, but he also heals his father, grandfather, grandmother, great-grandmother, and all those who have passed this energy down. This destructive energy can be passed down in many ways. It can be acted out physically through physical harm, sexual acts, or even emotional abuse. On the other hand, let's say that this young man who was abused grows up and does not do the work. Instead he does something that we call white knuckling, holding back but still experiencing the anger even though he is not acting it out. If he has children, that energy will still pass on to them in a similar way as if he had abused them. They in turn will pass it on to their children. And so, it goes from generation to generation to generation until somebody finally steps in and breaks the chain. New vision in spiral time-space. Part of the problem is that humans have been experiencing everything in linear time. So, when something happens, it slips into the past and they say, "Oh, that's the old me," or "That happened a long time ago. I've forgotten about that." But it doesn't go away, dear ones, for it's imprinted in the annals of time. That was the third-dimensional way of dealing with these difficult imprints. As a result, the imprints were passed down generationally to be dealt with. Humans have now passed into the fifth dimension and you have spiral time instead of linear time. In spiral time-space the energies come back around, allowing you to see forward and backwards on the timeline with much more clarity. When it was just a circle in fourth-dimensional time, you would tend to repeat things because you had very little forward or backward vision. In spiral time-space you can see as if it just happened, and that's the reason that you have no more secrets. All these things that were hidden not so long ago are starting to be uncovered. That happened with what you call the Me Too movement. It is about being able to see in circular time, having a new vision, then calling into action what is right and what is wrong. We tell you, dear ones, there is more healing occurring on this planet right now than ever before, particularly around sexual abuse issues. Sexual energy will not be denied. Sexuality is a significant part of your spirit and your experience on Earth. If denied, it will overreact and express in ways that are inappropriate. In your news media, you are seeing evidence of this in abundance. Many religions teach that sex is the base energy, the animalistic or physical part of you which is not spirit. We're here to tell you that is the reverse of how we see it. Sexuality is actually your spiritual energy coming through the body. When you separate those two and play the role of being a good little boy or girl, the sexual energy pulls back and creates repercussions. What if healthy sexual energy was recognized and even taught in your religions? It is the denial of sexual energy which is erupting in some of your religions right now. The vows of abstinence go completely against the spiritual teachings that they are trying to convey. Guilt is taught as a proper response to sex, and because of this the spirit is restricted within a belief system. Sexual energy is too strong to be restricted in this manner and will erupt in other ways if it is denied. It is difficult to move forward when your mistakes are hidden or covered over. That is what has happened as humans have looked the other way and said, "Oh, that was in the past." Or, "Oh, he's better now. He's okay. Let's move him to a different place where he won't experience those problems." That was the way it has been done before. Yet today, in spiral time, it is finally coming into focus. You're looking back into the spiral of time, spotting all the inconsistencies and challenges, and you're bringing them forward for healing. That is incredible, and we applaud you all for this. Judgment has no place in the fifth dimension. We also tell you that it's important to understand how this belief has been passed down. And what of the perpetrators of sexual abuse? Just because someone was responsible for acting this out does not mean that they are a bad person. That is an important part, for these are people just like you. Many had to deal with generational abuse and have been playing that out in their own lives. Remember, dear ones, there are no good or bad people. Yes, there are people who are sick, there are people that have caused great harm to others, and they will have a price to pay for that. Yet, to sweep this problem under the rug by saying that these perpetrators are somehow less than you does nothing to solve the overall problem. In a fifth dimensional reality with spiral time thought, this will no longer work to hide the problem. It is for each of you to place yourself in that person's life for a moment to try to understand how this could happen. Only then can the collective of humanity heal. Your jails are filled with people who have been abused, yet you have very few ways of working with it. You don't have special classes for them or healing modalities to help. This problem is much more prevalent than most people think. We will tell you right now that 27% of all people walking on your planet have had a sexual abuse issue of some sort that they carry. That is a huge percentage, and yet the problem has mostly remained hidden. Modern societies have hidden it from view and made it improper to discuss openly. However, that approach will no longer suffice in the fifth dimension and spiral time thought. We applaud those of you who work in these areas and carry an open mindset for daring to step forward. Even if you have been taught to be repulsed by it, the reality is that you all have sexual energy, desires, and needs. As you age, it takes a slightly different form in some, yet it still remains. Can you imagine what it would be like to be raised in a society where one could exercise that sexual energy safely and comfortably, unleashing the spirit without guilt?